Are your kitchen and bathroom way overdue for a remodel? Well, I got the guy for you. Call John Sellers at First Response Contracting, 484-256-7136. Both residential and commercial services, and he's licensed and insured. Call him at 484-256-7136. First Response Contracting.
From real estate to real life and everything in between, The Brad Weisman Show. And now, your host, Brad Weisman.
All right, we're back for another show. Super excited. You know, every month we have this amazing person that comes on the show. His name is Pete Heim, and he is here today with us again to go over real estate stuff in depth. So, Pete, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Brad, for having me on.
Hugo, is something different with Pete?
He looks fit. He looks very
fit, very fit. Oh, my God, it's Mark. So we have some good news and some bad news. The bad news is Pete's not here.
Yeah.
The good news is Mark Chaknos is here in his place.
And we didn't kill him. This actually
and we did not kill him.
Head.
That is not his head. We did not kill him. It's definitely a cutout, yeah. It looked really real, though, I'll tell you. Yeah. It looked really real. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a little bit.
How's your coffee?
The coffee's great.
That's good. That's good. It's weird. He's drinking coffee in the evening. That's really strange, right?
It's funny. I feel like I'm on a talk show because on the talk shows, they always say, they get a coffee or something like that.
Sure.
Do you think that's what they're drinking or is it just water?
I think sometimes it's just water. Yeah, I think it's all fake. You know, they said that Dean Martin actually did not drink. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
That when you thought he was drinking whiskey,
okay.
It was actually not whiskey. It was something else.
Sweet tea.
Sweet tea. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was actually just a prop. And he, because otherwise they said he would have been loaded the whole time he was on stage because the guy drank it like crazy. So a lot of that stuff was fake or whatever, but that doesn't really matter. We're not here to talk about Dean Martin.
Nope.
We are here to talk about real estate, and Mark is filling in for Pete Heim this month because I think Pete is gallivanting around the country somewhere. I'm not sure where he is.
I think he's in Canada, actually.
You were just in Canada.
Yeah, I just got back from Canada. We went on a fishing trip over Memorial Day weekend, and I think Pete and his son are doing the same. I think they went up to Newborough Lake, which I've been to one time.
Amazing.
Really cool up there.
Yeah. You caught lots of fish when you were up there, you said.
Ton of fish. Yeah, there's no better fishing than in Canada, especially for bass.
I agree 100%.
It's awesome.
So we're going to start off right away. There's 333 homes on the market here in Berks County. I'm not sure what it's like in your area or what you have going in your local market, but that's what's going on here. And I want to talk a little bit about getting that school is out. Okay. So school's out. And do you think do you think people are like, all right, either A, they're going to go on vacation so our business slows up or whatever, or do you think that people are like, all right, we need to find a house in order to get to the next school in September? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends where you're at in your life, obviously, and especially with kids like you brought up. I think the market has slowed down a little bit at the higher price points since we've kind of reached the end of the school year. People are going on vacation a little bit more. Their kids just ended up either graduating or they just got done with school. But the lower price points, my goodness. And when I say lower price points, I really think anything $350 and below is still getting like.
Isn't that funny that that's a lower price point?
Yeah.
Like years ago, lower price point would be 200 and under.
Sure.
It's
But
crazy.
I
You're right.
mean, in terms of like that general market, regardless of school district, $350 and below, you're still getting well over 20 showings on a lot of these houses. You're getting 5-10 offers on some of them. Once you start creeping above the 350 mark, I think that's where you're starting to see a lot of the activity slow down, and it could be relative to the school year ending.
And I'm seeing a lot of the ones in the 450 to 500 range with price reductions.
Sure.
And we haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely a sign of the interest rates. I mean, as much as we don't want to, you don't want to doom and gloom at the rates. The rates are actually, they're coming down a little bit. They're actually half decent right now. But, it does affect affordability. I mean, it really does. It affects your monthly payment.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think the rates have stalled to the point where they haven't done a whole lot, gone up, gone down, or whatever. And so people are kind of like now in this limbo, like, hey, what's going to happen with them? We assumed at this point we would add 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 rate cuts.
Yeah, for the Fed.
We haven't had that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the end of the year, we're going to see that first cut. Yeah. And that's when things are going to really pick back up.
And that could be a little scary because imagine Pete and I talk about this all the time. This Pete right here, the one on the table. Yeah. Pete and I talk about this all the time where, what is going to happen? Imagine if right now the rates were 4.5%.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it'd be
look,
wild.
Mark, like, we wouldn't have 333 homes in the market.
No.
You probably have 150 homes in the market.
Yeah.
And the prices would be jacking up even more.
Yeah.
So it's almost a blessing in a way that the rates did come up a little bit to kind of calm, which is exactly what they want, kind of calm things down a little bit. I thought we would be at a much higher inventory, though, than 333 with the rates being higher. I'm surprised that we're not in the 500 to 600 range,
Yeah, I think that's the misconception but now people are starting to finally understand it. The rates didn't curb demand, they curbed supply, right? The people that are sitting on the 3% interest rates don't want to move quite yet because they feel like they're in such a position of power. And then unless you're forced to move, that's one thing, but that's not going to create enough supply. We always talk about the death, the divorce,
things like that. Yeah.
The downsizing.
Yep.
But, again, I think people are just reluctant to put their house out there because they're like, wow, what a great interest rate I have.
Yeah.
Why would I make this move?
So that's a good point you make there. In that there's two things to look at there. We got buyers on the sideline waiting for the rates to come down.
Yep.
And we have sellers on the sideline waiting for the rates to come down because they don't want to make that move. When you said downsizing, you could be downsizing your house, but upsizing your payment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really right. Yeah. So, there's a lot going on there with that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens if we do get a rate drop. I'm talking mortgage rate, not Fed. If we get a mortgage rate drop of like a point, if it gets down in the 6% range, it'll be interesting to see what happens then with that.
I agree. I think the one thing too people forget about when they're like, oh, I got such a great interest rate. It's like, well, you're also sitting on a mound of money. You know what I mean? The equity in your house has increased significantly.
Yeah.
So it's not like, listen, I understand you got a great rate, but your equity could have went from 100,000 to 300,000 in the last 4 years.
And it did for some.
Yeah. So, and I've always said this, and my dad kind of instilled this in me, is like, nobody got rich sitting on real estate in Berks County, at least the majority of people here. So if you've got all this money just sitting in this house, think about what you could do with that, whether it goes on the next purchase or to pay down debt that you already have.
To pay debt that's costing you more.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The difference between your 3 and your 7%.
Yep. Amazing. And also invest in more real estate.
Yeah, or
buy flips, buy multi-units, buy something. Take some of that equity out of the house and buy something of an investment. Sure. You have a graph there that you were going to talk about, which I thought was interesting, was the monthly mortgage payments. I thought for sure when the rates went up, we were going to see the average monthly mortgage payment go sky high. Yeah, and it's not the case.
No, it's not. It's kind of reached like a level field here where it's not all that inconsistent from what we've seen in the past. Yeah. Like historically, the mortgage payment is kind of relative to what is typical, let's just say.
Yeah. So what is it? What's the typical in there? What is it showing as an average through the years? It's like 2,000?
Yeah, just the last. Right now, it's saying 2,000. 2,100 is the most recent number that's on here. But like it doesn't differ all that much even in the last year. You go back well over a year, actually. It's within a couple $100.
Yeah, it's not that much.
No.
Now, I wonder if the reason, as we're talking about it, the reason that payment didn't change much. Remember we just talked about how the $500,000 price range is coming down.
Yeah.
So if you take the average of payments, that's going to affect the averages by that pricing coming down. So if the house was $500,000 and now the rates went up and their mortgage is now much higher, it's going to affect that, or it's going to be affecting that also. So there's a lot of things that go on there. But I was surprised. I thought we were going to see this like going from $2,000 a month average to $2,500 a month average because of the rates, and it just didn't happen.
No doubt about it. And I think the thing that has the bigger volatility in it right now is the rental prices.
Yeah.
And you're seeing such a steep increase in rental prices over the past 4 or 5 years. And that's starting to level off a little bit, but that's really been the main indicator of why there's still a lot of demand out there, is because these rental prices aren't cheap.
Yeah.
So these people in the lower price points are like, well, I could rent for this, or I can still buy for this, so I think that's why you see demand in lower price points, and the buyers that can afford the more expensive houses are more conscious of the interest rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And and what I find is we're definitely, even in our county here, I'm seeing more apartment buildings going up than I am new homes.
Oh, no doubt about it. Multifamily is huge right now.
It's big. I mean, we're talking big complexes of 300, 400, apartments or units in one spot.
Yeah.
And it, as much as we say things about rental, that will help though the market overall, because it's still a place to live.
Absolutely.
Right. And some of the older clients are actually starting to go into those situations because they're sitting there going, you know what, I don't want to mow grass anymore. I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to go to 1,000 square foot apartment and all my budgeting is fixed. It's all done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Even your taxes.
It is cool.
So this is an interesting one. America's opinion of best long-term investment. This was interesting. Real estate is still the number one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Number 2 is stocks and mutual funds. You know what number 3 is? Gold.
Okay. Yeah.
Gold is still the standard is still up there with everything else.
Not Bitcoin.
Not, you know what's funny? Savings account is number 4, which is really weird. Bonds is number 5, and cryptocurrency is the last one. Yes,
that's funny.
I just thought that was really interesting that we still look at real estate as being a wealth builder and the best investment that you can make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes the most millionaires in the country. That's what they always say, and I think that's true. Over long term, real estate has shown outstanding returns.
Yeah.
You know.
I had a broker question for you.
Sure.
Not a tough one. I just, because you're the broker of our company, and I thought there was different things I could ask and we can bring up and discuss. One of them was, we've been going without inspections for quite some time.
Yep.
Are you seeing any kind of an uptick in conflict? I don't want to say lawsuits right away, but conflicts or phone calls of, son of a gun, I should have gotten an inspection because now I'm realizing there's mold or the roof is leaking and the seller didn't tell me. Are you seeing an uptick of that, or is it still pretty good?
Yeah, no, for sure. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time until you see those things kind of roll in, but there is a statute of limitations. So 2 years, you got to file something against a property.
Okay, good to know.
Especially if you think the seller misrepresented, like on the seller's disclosure. But we're definitely starting to seeing it more.
Yeah.
The one thing that I take notice of actually is, we do a pretty good job here with compliance. I'm proud of that, but our insurance rates go up quite a bit. And I talk to the insurance guys and they're like, we'll just be honest with you. People are getting sued left and right.
And that's because you think of no inspections.
I think so. Yeah. So it's not like it's our firm individually. Like we've done a pretty good job with that. But I think other companies out there are getting hammered. And then consequently, everybody's insurance rates go up because of it.
Yeah. And one of the things that we're very, we are very good with, I think, telling our agents, and we all do as leadership, is that, we never tell a buyer not to get an inspection.
Yeah.
Okay. We give you the tools and the ideas of how to win a home.
Yep.
And we're not saying inspections are bad. Inspections are great.
Yeah.
But this market has forced people to do things that they don't normally do. Because when you have 20 offers coming
That's right.
and you got to be competitive. And what has happened is inspections have become something that people use.
Yeah. You have a better chance getting a home inspection agreed upon on a higher price home than you do on a lower price home. And that can be tricky for a first time home buyer, let's just say, who's scared. This is their first property. They want to go into it with, a clear conscience that they're not getting into a money pit.
Yep.
Opposed to the guy that might have a little bit more money or gal, and they're buying an expensive home, but they can afford to get an agreement signed with a home inspection contingency. So, it's a different thing, but it comes down to competition, right? Like you said, if there's 5 to 10 offers, you have to guide your client to do whatever they're willing to do to put them in the best position to win the house. A lot of times that's waiving inspections.
Unfortunately, but that's what's happening. And it's been happening for like 2-3 years. I mean, there's people that are getting into business now that never even really dealt with inspections.
It's funny. I sat down with 2 agents just yesterday, to go over a home inspection report, and, they're relatively newer agents, and they were, scared off by it as rightfully they should be. These reports can come back pretty ugly sometimes, but, it's funny. I haven't dove deep into like a home inspection report in quite a while.
So weird,
I mean, I think I've done like less than 5 in the past 3 years.
Crazy.
Which is wild.
It is. I don't think over the past 2 years, the offers that I've written, maybe one.
Yeah.
Maybe one.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, we give them the choice. We always give them the choice. Say, look, this is what an inspection's about. This is what it does. And then you decide from there. Hugo, did you do an inspection?
No, I don't think I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a really good realtor.
I mean, I just bought a home 7 months ago. Interest rate in the 7s.
Yeah.
No inspections. I bought it no inspections because I had to do what I had to do to get the house. It's
about winning. It's about winning the house. It's a little different than it used to be. Do you have any questions, Hugo, at all?
No.
Because sometimes you do about houses and stuff like that. You're pretty good on that.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna. I have a question about titling. If my wife and I bought this house and her name is on the deed along with my name, but only my name is in the mortgage.
Yeah.
if I was to die, will that present any challenges for her?
And I think how we answered that was ask Lorena, but but no. But the answer to that is it depends on how when you bought the property, how you took ownership of the property. It will be on the deed, whether it's tenants in common, tenants, the right of survivorship.
Yep.
It depends on that. Typically, because you're married and you're both in a deed, it would be tenants in common, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Which means if one of you goes, the other person gets
passes on.
There's hardly ever a time where if two people are on the deed, hardly ever, where if one passes, the estate actually owns the other half, which is really gets complicated.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very complicated. So you're going to talk to Lorena. Get back to us with any answer on that next month. How's that? All right. Is there the other thing I want to say, what are the things that you get the most calls on with agents or with complaints and not saying that every broker deals with issues, no matter what. When you're doing how many units we do a year, you're going to have stuff.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
A lot of it's contractual negotiations, whether, they want to write something in like in the additional term sections of our agreement, some sort of clause or some sort of other arrangement between the buyer and seller. I like to have input on that because you got to be careful what you write in these contracts that aren't already kind of pre-printed in them. The other thing is dispute over deposits, terminations of agreements, whether the buyer actually has a right to terminate or a seller has a right to terminate, can be interpreted and misconstrued oftentimes by agents. So you want to make sure that you're putting your client in a position where it doesn't jeopardize their earnest money deposit. Yeah. Because that's really what it comes down to. And sometimes you have these deals where there's $20,000, $30,000 earnest money deposit.
That's a lot.
Person wants to get out of the deal, right or wrong, you better make sure you're right because otherwise it can be disputed. It can drag out. There's the potential loss of that deposit. Most times, and I always love to go with this theory in life in general, cooler heads will prevail.
Yes.
Most people don't like to sue and go to that length over an earnest money deposit, especially in a market where the house will probably sell to somebody else.
Yep.
But yeah, those are probably the top two things that I hear and deal with the most.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of people forget that and is that both people have to sign something to release that escrow.
Yeah.
The buyer and the seller must agree where that's going, whether it's all going to one person or it's going split half 50-50. Yep. That has to be agreed upon.
The termination aspect of the agreement is a unilateral decision. One party or the other can do
terminate.
It. But as far as the actual release of the deposit, both parties have to sign off and agree upon that. And if they don't, there is a timeline in our agreements, depending on how it's written and structured, that a decent amount of time can actually go by without that money being released. So we advise our agents to do things a certain way that'll speed up that process and that everybody kind of gets on the same page in terms of like, okay, this isn't working out. It's either put up or shut up time,
exactly.
or just get me my money back.
Yeah, because the reality is this: you start getting into legalities and stuff with that, nobody wins. Nobody wins, and that deposit becomes nothing because all you're doing is just spending money on legal fees.
It's hard for a seller to retain the deposit. Yeah, truthfully,
I agree with you.
If they push hard and long enough, and they're right, they probably will win. Yep. But a lot of people don't want to do that.
No, it's not fun. It's not fun at all. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we end the show?
No, I mean, honestly, thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
Don't tell Susan you were on, okay? Yeah, she'll get very jealous and upset about it.
Pete and Susan are both on vacation right now. Look at us.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. She's cruising the Mediterranean. Here we are in the basement, in the studio, busting our asses. Trying to make a living.
What else is new?
That's amazing. All right. Thanks so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. Yep. Thanks for filling in. All right. There you have it. Well, it wasn't Pete. It was Mark Chaknos, our broker here at Keller Williams Platinum Realty. And we are so thankful he stepped in for him. Come see us every Thursday, 7 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and anywhere else that you can find a podcast. All right. That's about it. We'll see you next week. Are your kitchen and bathroom remodels a little overdue? Well, now's your chance to call First Response Contracting. John Sellers will take care of you. 484-256-7136. They do residential and commercial, and they're licensed and insured. Give them a call at 484-256-7136.